Many amateurs miss half-high balls because they lift their entire arm for the backswing. Even if the ball is high, the upper arm stays down. You raise your forearm to hit it, not your whole arm. Yesterday, we finished our discussion on arm mechanics by covering the elbow. If you feel you can't generate power from your elbow, here's a drill. Stand next to the table facing forward, don't turn sideways. Then squat, point your elbow to the floor, and hold your racket with a closed angle. Your shoulder should face forward. You will feel an awkward, constricted tension in your elbow and shoulder. When you practice with this tension, you are correctly addressing the power generation issue. This also corrects the bad habit of pulling the elbow back then just pushing, which prevents you from meeting the ball in front. Practice this drill for 1 to 2 minutes per set to get the feeling of opening up your shoulder and elbow. This will improve the coordination of your upper arm and forearm. Alright, let's move on to the wrist action. Pay attention if you have a habit of dropping, hooking, cocking, or deviating your wrists. Identify which one of these is your issue. First, for penhold players, a dropped wrist is not an issue. Many former national champions played this way, so there's no need to fix it. However, if your wrist is stiff and you're actively pressing it down, that is a mistake that must be corrected. A tense wrist kills your forehand. The advantage of a penhold forehand comes from a relaxed wrist, which allows for a better wraparound motion, more space to brush the ball, and greater racket head speed and angle. But don't overdo it, the wrist should be naturally relaxed. The main problems are with the shakehand grip. The first issue is hooking the wrist. You might think you loop well with it, but you will loop much better if you open it up. It's like how a compact stroke is better than swinging your whole arm. You must understand that your wrist position dictates your entire stroke structure. The bad habits that seem to work now are what's limiting your potential. A hooked wrist is often caused by using a backhand dominant grip. This is why players with this issue tend to have a better backhand. When preparing for a forehand, you must adjust your grip, as we discussed yesterday. The web between your thumb and index finger should be centered on the handle. Without moving my arm, I can switch from a hooked wrist to an open wrist just by changing my grip. So you see, the problem isn't your arm, it's your grip. Many players just graze the ball for side spin or use an elbow pulling motion. You can get the ball on the table, but you'll never achieve a power loop or real speed. You are brushing sideways instead of impacting the ball forward, so you'll never feel what it's like to loop through an opponent. Are any of you considering switching from penhold to shakehand but are hesitating? Often, we are too attached to our current skill level. I faced the same issue. My coach told me that if I didn't abandon my old techniques, my level would stagnate. Change is necessary to break through your ceiling. The reason you're not improving after years of playing is that your current skills can only maintain your level, they can't produce a major breakthrough. So, consider switching. Your hand and shoulder will hurt less. If your rating is under 1800, you can likely reach your old level within 6 months. Just don't switch back and forth, or you'll ruin your feeling for the ball. Don't regret switching from penhold to shakehand, there are countless success stories. Now, let's talk about the cocked wrist. This is caused by leaving a gap between your index finger and the racket. The soft web of your hand should be snug against the handle's flare. Don't grip too tightly or too loosely. Your index finger and thumb must be in contact with the blade, leaving no space. You haven't cocked wrist because this is how you are holding the racket. Both a hooked and uncocked wrist lead to too much brushing and not enough forward power. This also makes your stroke unstable. Correct technique ensures your stroke remains stable even after 10 matches. So, make sure your index finger and thumb are firmly against the blade with no gaps. Next, let's look at the cause of a deviated wrist. It comes from how you position your index finger. With this grip, the racket tips up even if you keep your wrist still. If I place my finger correctly and relax my wrist, I can easily adjust the racket face from deviated, to neutral, to dropped. Hooked or cooked wrists cause too much brushing and not enough impact. A deviated wrist makes it impossible to loop, causing you to misread spin and hit into the net. This happens because there is no friction. The racket head isn't rotating on its own. The arc is generated only by your arm, which is why you hit the net so often. A dropped wrist during a forehand drive is, of course, incorrect. For a drive, the wrist should be kept in a neutral, level position. When looping a topspin ball, your wrist should extend outwards and backwards. A dropped wrist will cause the shot to go long. The main movement is backward extension. Third, when looping a backspin ball, the wrist should drop downwards. The same applies to penhold, neutral for a drive, laid back diagonally for a topspin loop, and drop down for a backspin loop. As you can see, the wrist is extremely important. Once your wrist position is correct, remember, for a forehand drive, you do not use your wrist. It must be locked and stable. The wrist does not move. Do not let it wobble. Any wrist wobble will cause you to hit out when you apply power. Lock your wrist and forearm together as one solid unit. Whether your arm is to the side or up high, they move together with absolutely no independent wrist action. No up-down, side-to-side, or forward-backward movement. Not even a slight wobble. Let me demonstrate. During a drive, the wrist must be completely still. See? The wrist is motionless. This is how you guarantee stability when you generate power. You might think a tiny wobble doesn't matter. It's fine when you're hitting softly. But the moment you add force, 80% of your shots will go out. Your wrist must be exceptionally stable to ensure your power shots land on the table. The same principle applies to looping. We've covered the shoulder, elbow, and wrist. Now, let's discuss the upper arm and forearm. The relationship between the upper arm and forearm is like a pair of nunchucks. Many players can't generate power on their forehand because these two parts don't work separately. You're using your arm as one stiff lever. I generate power sequentially, like cracking a whip. A strong player might have less power than me because their force generation mechanics are wrong. In the forehand framework, your upper arm and forearm need to be fully extended for drives, loops, and against backspin. So how do you ensure they are extended? The backswing is not about pulling your elbow and upper arm back. It's about opening up the forearm. Watch my forearm closely as it opens up. I'm not pulling my shoulder or elbow back. In my opinion, no matter how fast the ball is, you need this motion of opening the forearm to meet it. Don't let your upper arm and forearm stick together. That's a primary reason for a weak shot. A second point is the direction of the upper arm. Most amateurs keep their upper arm too close to their body and swing towards the left. The problem is that you're not opening up your arm during the backswing. If you always practice close to the ball, during a match you'll be forced to move side to side. If your arm is too close to your body, the demand on your footwork becomes immense. If you're slightly late or can't open up, your stroke will completely differ from your practice form, leading to many errors. So, during the backswing, your upper arm must not only go back but also open up to the side, creating that framework we discussed yesterday. Therefore, don't just pull your upper arm back, move it slightly to the side to create space. This gives your forehand the necessary space to create an outside arc and a proper swing path. The second point is the arm's orientation. As I said yesterday, the elbow point should face down. This means the upper arm is always directed downwards. If your upper arm points backwards, you are shrugging your shoulder to hit the ball. So, keep the upper arm pointing down at all times. You adjust for ball height with your shoulder and forearm. For a drive, raise the forearm. For a topspin loop, bring the forearm further back. For a backspin ball, lower the forearm and shoulder. The adjustment comes from the forearm. Even for a high ball, do not lift your upper arm. The moment you raise your arm, it's already wrong. Many amateurs miss half-high balls because they lift their entire arm for the backswing. Even if the ball is high, the upper arm stays down. You raise your forearm to hit it, not your whole arm. As soon as the upper arm lifts, you will almost certainly make an error. The upper arm always points down, whether for in-table shots, drives, or loops. Next, the forearm. You must use your forearm, but the degree of its use is critical. The extent of forearm use depends on your position. The closer you are to the table, the more you use your forearm. For a forehand drive, it's about 70 to 80% forearm. At mid-distance, about a meter back, the ratio of upper arm to forearm is roughly 50/50. From far distance, you use more upper arm, and the forearm might only contribute 20%. All forearm action must be coordinated with the upper arm. Watch me hit a few balls. Am I using my forearm? It's still being used, but only after the upper arm has done 70% of the work. This motion is also a forearm snap. Not using the forearm means the upper arm does all the work, resulting in a huge swing over your head. Even this is considered using the forearm, just with a higher upper arm. All forearm use must be integrated with the upper arm. For example, when looping a topspin ball, don't snap your forearm too early upon contact. That's a common mistake. This is an example of excessive forearm usage. The same goes for backspin balls. Overusing the forearm is a key error. So how should the upper arm be used? For a forehand drive, your entire arm structure, shoulder, upper arm, elbow, forearm, should be driven forward by your body to meet the ball. Your arm should maintain its structure as the upper arm drives forward to make solid contact with the ball. Step 1 is to achieve this feeling of meeting the ball in front with a solid impact. Step 2, building on that, is to snap your forearm forward and upward. Notice how compact my forearm snap is. All forearm action must happen while you are driving forward into the ball. Take a backspin ball. If you just brush upwards, your form might look okay, but the quality will be low. But if you drive into it as you snap your forearm, the result is completely different. You must drive into the ball as you snap, don't back away from it. If you don't learn to drive into the ball on a simple drive, you'll never be able to do it on a loop. Against backspin, your instinct is to pull away and lift up. This is a natural human reaction we must overcome. Therefore, every forearm snap must happen after you've made solid, forward contact. Don't snap on impact. Drive into the ball and then snap. Meet the ball and snap. Practicing this now will enable you to use your opponent's incoming power in a real match. The highest level of power in table tennis isn't just your own force, it's combining forces with the opponent's ball. If you don't drive into the ball and just try to guide it, its trajectory will be unpredictable. Second point, the goal isn't a textbook follow-through angle. After driving forward, your forearm snap is like a braking action after acceleration. The motion must stop. The stroke has a distinct stopping point. Don't over-rotate your follow-through. A longer swing arc with the same force will make the ball go long. A shorter arc keeps it on the table. Same power, long arc goes out, short arc goes in. Especially when you are playing close to the table, your swing arc must be shortened. So, after you complete the stroke, your hand shouldn't be too close to your body or too high. Stop when it reaches the height of your eyebrows. When we say eyebrow level, we are referring to the racket head, not your hand. Once you master this, you can make micro adjustments in a match based on the ball. But first, you must have a standard, textbook, technique. So, the follow-through after driving into the ball is actually very compact. And your upper arm and elbow remain stable. Step 1, drive forward. Step 2, snap. This snap is your acceleration, and it must have a clear acceleration and braking phase. 1, 2. Compact swing, sharp stop. Let me show you. I can decide where to stop the racket on every single shot. I am actively stopping it. This is how you gain control. If your stopping point is inconsistent, sometimes here, sometimes there, how can your shots ever be stable? They can't. You must understand this is your fundamental framework. Once you have the foundation, you can adjust in a match. Stop here for a faster ball, here for more spin, or here if the ball is to your left. But at this learning stage, you need a textbook standard. Today we covered the wrist, upper arm, and forearm. Tomorrow, we will start on the loop.